Welcome back. We're on episode 3 of the Voltage series. So, episode 1 introduced the framework that your body's fundamentally electromagnetic, that cellular voltage matters for both health and signal, and there are practical interventions that support that voltage. Episode 2 is grounding. Today is light. This might be the most important episode in the series because light affects your body at a level most people don't even think about. The light you receive across the day shapes your cellular energy production, your hormones, your circadian rhythm, your mood, your sleep, and your ability to regenerate. Modern indoor life produces a kind of light deficiency that contributes to a lot of what we call modern disease. So I'm going to walk you through what light actually is at the biological level, what the research shows about red and near infrared specifically, how to think about sunlight across the day, what red light therapy devices do, and how to put it all together into a practical light protocol for yourself. So let me start with what's actually happening when light hits your body. Light is electromagnetic radiation. Different wavelengths have different effects. The visible spectrum is the small range your eyes can see, but the relevant spectrum for your body extends beyond what you can see into ultraviolet on one side and infrared on the other. When light hits your skin or eyes, several things happen depending on the wavelength. Some light is reflected, some is absorbed by the surface tissue, some penetrates deeper into the body, reaching organs and bones. Let me just say that again. Penetrates deep enough to reach organs and bones. The wavelengths that penetrate the deepest are the longer ones, which are the rare, they are rare, red and near infrared. These can reach tissues several centimeters below the skin surface. So think about that. When red and near infrared wavelengths reach the cells, they're absorbed by specific molecules. The most important one for our purposes is cytochrome C oxidase. This is an enzyme in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. I know that's a mouthful, but listen. It's part of how your mitochondria produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency of cells. More ATP, more energy. When red light is absorbed by cytochrome C oxidase, the enzyme works more efficiently. Electrons flow through the transport chain more readily and ATP production increases. The cell then has more available energy for whatever it's doing. This is the basic mechanism of photobiomodulation, which is the technical name for light therapy. It's not exotic and it's actually not new. The research has been developing for decades. NASA has done significant work on it for astronaut health. It's used clinically for wound healing, pain management, and increasingly for general cellular support. So, what does the research actually show? For wound healing, the evidence is strong. Red and near infrared light accelerates healing for various wound types. This is established enough that FDA-cleared devices, including the one I use, exist for specific clinical applications. I know you're going to want to know what I use. It is the platinum therapy light. It's one of only 2 devices that's FDA cleared. I don't get any, I'm not an affiliate or anything like that, so you can trust my opinion on it. It is an amazing light. I have their most recent iteration, and I've had lights by them ever since they pretty much have been in business. So, yeah, it's an awesome light. It's worth the money. We'll get into it a little bit later about the cheap devices. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. For pain management, especially musculoskeletal pain, the evidence is also good. Studies show measurable reduction in pain and improvement in function with consistent red light therapy, and I can attest to this. For skin health, the evidence is substantial. Red light produces increased collagen, reduced wrinkles, improved skin texture, and better wound healing on the skin. This is why red light therapy has become popular in dermatology and aesthetic practices. Now, not that I'm some sort of supermodel or anything, because the rest of me is aging around my great skin, but I'm 63 And I really don't have any wrinkles or, the sunspots or whatever. And I use a red light device a lot. And I'm not saying this is why. I don't think my genetics are that great based on, how my parents aged, but and that certainly can, add into a good skin texture, right? Um, so back to the red light. Now we've gone through dermatology. Let's talk about mitochondrial function. For that, and mitochondrial function is basically, um, the health of your cells and thus your body. So for this function, the evidence is developing. Studies show effects on ATP production and on mitochondrial biogenesis and on cellular metabolism. This mechanism is well characterized even when specific clinical applications are still being studied. For more systemic effects like energy levels, sleep, hormonal function, thyroid support, cognitive function, even, the evidence is mixed and still developing. Some studies show benefits, others don't. The variability likely reflects, differences in protocols, device quality, individual response. What we can say with reasonable confidence is that red and near infrared light affects cellular function through mitochondrial mechanisms, and this affects health in multiple ways. The specific applications continue to be researched, but the basic mechanism is not controversial. So now let's talk about sunlight specifically, because the conversation around sun has gotten distorted in modern culture. The sun delivers the full electromagnetic spectrum, UV at one end, infrared at the other, with visible light in between. Different times of day deliver different relative amounts of these wavelengths. Morning sun before about 9 a.m. is dominated by red and near infrared wavelengths, and the UV content is low. Good if you don't want to age your skin, right? This is the gentlest, most therapeutic sun of the day. I am out in the sun every day. I'm grounding. So I've got 20 minutes outside, feet on the bare earth. I'm usually pulling some weeds. I have a big garden. And the sun, it's usually around 7 when I go out. So there's no real rays hitting me. This supports circadian rhythm by signaling good morning to your body. And it activates mitochondria through the red and near infrared. And it provides minimal UV exposure that requires no protection. Midday sun, which is 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., has the highest UV content. But this is the sun that produces vitamin D in your skin, so it's important. But it also produces sunburn and aging if you're exposed for too long. The relationship to skin cancer is real, but more complicated than standard messaging suggests. It's really interesting that higher sunscreen use correlates with higher skin cancer episodes. And why this may be is because people slather on sunscreen and figure, oh, now I can be in the sun all day because I'm totally protected. But you still can't be. It still gives you a little extra time. It does give you a little extra protection, but it's not foolproof. So people wearing sunscreen stay out longer than they should. But here's the thing. All you need is brief midday sun exposure for vitamin D production. So you don't have to be out there for hours and hours. As I said, extended midday sun without protection produces damage. Now, evening sun, about 4 p.m. or so, shifts back to more red and infrared and less UV. And the body recognizes this as preparing for evening. The infrared content of late afternoon and sunset light supports tissue repair and circadian wind down. So the standard modern advice is to avoid the sun or to wear sunscreen when you're outside. This could be more harmful than the sun exposure it's trying to prevent. Because not only, complete sun avoidance produces vitamin D deficiency, but it also disrupts circadian rhythm, removes mitochondrial support that you get from red and infrared, and possibly contributes to mood disorders and chronic disease. And, we see that in populations that don't get a lot of sun, that they have seasonal affective disorder. So a more accurate approach is get morning sun without protection, eyes uncovered, skin exposed to whatever degree is comfortable with you and your neighbors. 20 minutes is plenty. This is the most beneficial sun exposure of the day. Midday sun is still good. brief exposure for vitamin D, 15 or 20 minutes, depending on your skin type, without sunscreen or on whatever skin you can expose. Again, think about your neighbors here. Then cover up or seek shade if you're going to be out longer. The brief exposure produces vitamin D, and the continued exposure, if you don't have protection, produces damage. For late afternoon and evening sun, this is generally safe and beneficial. The UV content is lower. The infrared content supports tissue and prepares the body for evening. And again, I said, I don't use sunscreen except for very specific situations. I use hats, I use clothing, and I time my exposures. Long sleeves and shade are more reliable than chemical sunscreens for extended exposure. And that kind of philosophy, which I've really held for most of my life, could also be why I'm not seeing a lot of wrinkling and sun pigmentation on my skin at 63. So let's talk about red light therapy devices. I love them. Okay, these deliver concentrated doses of red and near infrared light, typically through LED panels. The good devices, like the one I have, use specific wavelengths that match the absorption spectrum of cytochrome C oxidase. Usually that's 660 nanometers for red and 850 nanometers for near infrared. Again, I use a platinum therapy light, which is FDA cleared and uses these specific wavelengths at therapeutic intensities. So there's two main brands of FDA cleared medical grade devices, Platinum and Joovv. Both are, and that's Joovv, Joovv. Both are series equipment, but Platinum is generally considered the more technically rigorous. And I can say that their customer service is freaking amazing. They can tell you anything you need to know. They can help you, and they're very easy to get a hold of. Now, that being said, there are also cheaper devices available. Most use the right wavelengths, but at lower intensities, which means longer session times or less penetration. Some cheap devices have problems with wavelength purity or LED quality. For occasional use on small areas, cheaper devices can work, but for systemic effects from full body exposure, the better devices are worth the investment. What is the point of buying something, even if it's cheap, if it doesn't work? You've just thrown your money away. Better to save for the better device. And I do believe that the FDA cleared ones, you can use your HSA on. So it makes it more affordable. So a typical session is 20 minutes of direct exposure to the affected area or to the body generally. Distance matters here. The device should be reasonably close, usually 6 to 18 inches, depending on the device. The skin should be exposed to the light and not blocked by clothing. So I do 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day, combined with a PEMF mat. So I get both interventions at the same time. So PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic frequency, which we'll talk about later. But I've changed it up according to what I need. Currently, I'm doing probably 15 minutes in the morning. On one side of my body, I do the anti-aging, and then I flip over and do deep tissue because for specific things I have. And then at night, I'll do the sleep one because it does help with my circadian rhythm. The body responds really well, or mine does, to PEMF and red light at once. So it's really helpful. I don't have a lot of time, so it helps me get two things done at once. Practical recommendations. If you do nothing else, get morning sun. 20 minutes outside before 9 a.m. and you could be grounding at the same time, also important. Skin exposed to whatever degree you can, eyes uncovered. It's free and it produces real effects. Again, you can combine it with grounding and do two things at once. You're stacking 2 voltage interventions into one outdoor session, which really should be pleasurable. Again, for midday sun, I've already said, don't roast in it. For the evening, enjoy it. If you want to add red light therapy, start with attention to natural light first. Okay, get the free benefits before investing in equipment. If you live in a climate or a situation where natural light is limited, or you have specific conditions that benefit from concentrated red light, the equipment becomes valuable. So if you're shopping and you don't want to use the devices that I've spoken of. Look for, well, look for FDA cleared ones. There's only two. But you want the 660 nanometers and 850 nanometer wavelengths. Be willing to spend real money for a real device because those cheap ones often disappoint. For protocol, 20 minutes daily of natural sun or red light is the basic dose. More can be done, but it isn't strictly necessary. And here's the big thing. I teach this with almost everything. Consistency matters more than duration. If you can only do it 10 minutes a day, every day, that's so much better than an hour once a week or twice a week. Small session, you're still getting benefits. So next week, we're going to cover water, salt, and mineral hydration for voltage support. Most people don't drink water in a way that actually supports cellular function. There's a specific approach that works better. For now, light. Get outside in the morning. Let the sun reach you. Your mitochondria evolved with this input and they want it. Thanks for being here, and I will see you next time.